Alright, quick update on Kadena. So, I've noticed about 3 pretty brutal things in the price chart that I want to go through with you right now. So let's jump right into the video. Number 1, if we look at what we've done on the daily, we're going to start off on the higher time frames, but we've had this trend line in place for quite some period of time. I've actually moved it over. I always think it's a good idea if you've got a trend line to try and see how far back you can extrapolate it. Previously, we were running something like this. We've got a new touch point, so I ran it back and we've got a pretty decent line of resistance right now. Let me mark this as red. But we have obviously once again been rejected from this point. So what should we expect right now? Well, we're heading down, and the next point of interest is this $2.31 region. And what you'll actually notice is we've come up, we've been rejected from this trend line once, we've back tested it, we've come up, we've been rejected from this trend line twice, and now it looks like we're going to be heading right down to $2.30. Now, what's interesting about this, if I draw it out and you see, if we do come down to this $2.30 region, we will be playing out a pretty textbook M pattern. And if we do extrapolate the price target of what we could expect from this M pattern, make this one purple again, if we do break down, then we could expect a price target of $1.17 for Kadena. Now, there is a tiny bit of confluence around that level, not necessarily on that exact price target, but if you've been watching my Kadena videos, you know that for quite some time now, I've actually been targeting the $1.80 region. So, between 80 cent and $1. I probably should have said that instead. But you can also see, 3.618 Fibonacci down here, 1.618 macro Fibonacci down here, and also you've got a few touch points on this trend line as well. So, this area down here where I've got this green box, there is a plethora of supports, resistances, fibs, double fibs from 3.618s, 1.618s. We don't have any price targets of any breakdowns that I am aware of. I don't see this being any type of bull flag, bear flag rather. This would obviously not be a bull flag, but yeah, it seems pretty textbook to me. The third thing I wanted to talk about, so number 1, you've got a nasty M pattern. If we do capitulate below this, you could see a move down to $1.17. At that period in time, I think we'd be moving down to $1.80 anyway. I've been talking about this for quite some time. The last time we adjusted, our price target was a 69% drop. Now it's only, well, it's about 68. I mean, really nothing special. We haven't moved down too fast yet, but propelling below this M pattern breakdown could definitely be very nasty for Kadena. So, number 1, like I said, we've been rejected from this trend line a plethora of times now. Normally when you do get rejected, you can just see, if I run it back a few steps, rejection here, push down, break up, come back into it, huge rejection, come into it, huge rejection, come into it, huge rejection, and now we're kind of already starting to see what is reminiscent of the previous capitulations that we've had over on Kadena. The number 1 thing is we really don't have a crazy amount of volume coming in at this moment in time. At least 35k traded over on Bittrex. That's nothing compared to the previous capitulation candles that we've had in the past week or so. Nonetheless, this is still very brutal. So M pattern, you're getting rejected from this trend line all the time, and it was only the other day that we came up and got rejected on the daily time frame from these EMA ribbons. That is number 3. So it seems pretty textbook. I'm still bearish on Kadena. I have been bearish on Kadena since $6.50. Shout out to everyone who's been watching my Kadena videos since all the way back up here. We started making them, I believe, on the 8th of April. Maybe the day before, and we've just been sitting on the sidelines. Like, I've been saying, while I'm bearish on Kadena, I don't necessarily think it's like a terrible project. I'm not hating on it. I'm not trying to FUD people out their bags. I'm just looking at the chart objectively. The chart looks bearish. I want to buy for a cheap price target. I don't want to assume that I know where the bottom is, because I don't know where the bottom is. If you're listening to a YouTuber who says they know where the bottom is, I'm telling you, they do not have a crystal ball. No one knows where the bottom is, but I just don't think at this moment in time, DCAing is just not a good idea. And if you've been watching me, I mean, it's kind of like I'm on repeat, because I said this down here at 350. I actually said this as we capitulated at 470, and I said this the other day down here at 150, and I'm saying the same thing now up here. So you know, most of the time or at least predominantly most of the time, we are heading down in this direction, and I still do think much lower price targets are in play for Kadena. So I'm going to look at the 4-hourly time frame. We're going to wrap it up on here, but I actually do just want to show you, because we're going to wrap up on the 4-hour time frame, I want to show you Bitcoin very quickly. And you might be wondering, you know, why is this guy showing me Bitcoin? I came here for Kadena. The matter of the fact is, what has Bitcoin been doing for the last 4 hours? It's been having a massive capitulation. What has Kadena been doing in the previous 4 hours? Massive capitulation. Why is Kadena capitulating? Because Bitcoin is capitulating. Why is Kadena having a bounce back in the past 4 hours? Because Bitcoin's having a bounce back in the past 4 hours. A lot of people, they only look at what's going on with the altcoins, and that is where you're going wrong. If you're only looking at Kadena USD, you're missing out on a massive piece of the puzzle. If I'm looking at altcoin charts, I want to look at what Bitcoin's doing. I want to look at what the Bitcoin dominance is doing. I want to see, is the Bitcoin dominance breaking out? Are altcoins bearish against Bitcoin? What is Total 2 doing? How are the altcoins doing? You can see the altcoins are currently capitulating. These are all different charts that we need to take into account when we are trading altcoins. So Bitcoin specifically, we've just had a massive capitulation below this asymmetrical triangle, and we're coming back to retest it. All I really want to say from here is, I do have a saying. If you've been watching my channel for a prolonged period of time, if you've watched a lot of my Bitcoin and a lot of my altcoin videos, you probably know what I'm about to say, but a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction. That means, say you're building up in a pattern, you're building up in an asymmetrical triangle, you break out, right? Price target is all the way up here, $34,300. You break out temporarily, you come up, you get rejected, and then you not only fall right back into the pattern, but you fall below it. That is called a failed move. And like I said, a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction. Is there any evidence to point up? Well, look at what happened in the past 4 hours. We had a failed move, and we went boom from 30,000 all the way down to 29,000. This was a $1,400 drop in just 4 hours. That is pretty brutal in my opinion. So like I said, Bitcoin could be setting up for a rejection right now. If we do come up to round about 29,350, 29,400, and we get a rejection, we could be moving massively lower for Bitcoin. I'm personally predicting a 22,000 Bitcoin before we do find that bear market bottom. And what does that mean for Kadena? Well, Kadena is just going to follow what Bitcoin is going to do, but it's going to do it more euphorically. And that is why we're seeing Kadena massively bleed out against Bitcoin. And I actually think, no, we haven't checked out KDA BTC, so we'll wrap up the video on this. All I really want to say on the 4 hour is we tried to have a breakout, we went to backtest, we double topped, we failed, we M'd out. So, you know, zooming out, look at this. You know, we've been in a 4 hourly bear trend since $6.50, or was it all the way up here actually? We've been in a 4 hourly bear trend since $7. If like me, because, you know, once again, like I said, if you've been watching my videos, I've been saying the trend is your friend until the end. The trend is defined by these 4 hourly bearish EMA ribbons. So, you know, you could have been a hopium moon boy and just DCA'd all the way down from $7. You would have probably been absolutely wrecked by now. Or you could look at the charts, you could recognize that the downtrend is defined by the 4 hourly EMA ribbons, and then you can acknowledge that until we do break out of these 4 hourly EMA ribbons, then we're probably not going to be bullish. One last thing to wrap up the video, or wrap up Kadena USD, is we've just broken down from this big asymmetric, no, it's not really asymmetric, but definitely a triangle pattern nonetheless. I'm not going to take the price target of this. I do think, actually, you know what, we might as well take the price target. Every time I say I'm not going to take the price target, I'm always like, oh no, we'll take the price target anyway. But where does this line up? Perfectly at where I want to pick up KDA, down here at 93 cent. Like I've been saying previously, I said there wasn't a lot of confluence, or you know, there was tons of confluence, but there was no price targets. Now we have a price target. Let's straighten this up a bit, but you can see this is where I think we're coming down to. I think we're coming down to between $1.80. I wish you the best of luck if you are trading KDA right now. I have been very adamant for the past couple of weeks that I am bearish. And just to wrap up the video, I don't want to do TA on this chart. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because I've already gone through the entire USD chart. But 786 Fibonacci, we are breaking below it on the Bitcoin pair. Kadena is exceptionally bearish against Bitcoin. Look at this. In my opinion, I always say this, if you're buying altcoins, I understand why you're buying altcoins. You're buying altcoins to have a quote-unquote better risk to reward ratio, and you're taking on tons of extra risk in the market buying an altcoin instead of buying Bitcoin because you're hoping to yield a better return. But what if that altcoin is underperforming Bitcoin? Not only are you basically throwing your money down the toilet because you might as well have just bought Bitcoin and you would be a lot better off, but you're taking on tons of extra risk for a crypto which is not outperforming Bitcoin. Am I saying that KDA is never going to outperform Bitcoin? Am I saying KDA is never going to be able to go on a bull run? Absolutely not. I'm simply saying, in my opinion, you'd be much better off waiting for something like this and buying the breakout. That's what I plan on doing. We've been watching this for a while and you can see it's a straight, well, it's not a straight line down, but it's pretty much a straight line down. We're getting absolutely slaughtered against both Bitcoin and the US dollar. Doesn't make any sense to DCA for me. I wish you best of luck if that is your strategy. My strategy is buying trend reversals. I feel like it's so much safer, so much better. And you can get profit like this. You know, you can enter a breakout trade and you can have profit in a day. If you buy the dip, you know, you might be pulling your hairs out, you know, growing white hairs because you know, for example, if you bought when I started making videos on KDA up at like 650 and you were like, okay, I acknowledge that the trend is bearish on the 4-hourly, but I think I know better than the trend. I'm going to buy where I think the bottom is. And you bought the bottom here, 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 and even if you're buying now, I do think you are going to be wrecked if you do not wait for the breakout. That's my opinion. Wish you best of luck. Like I said, $2.30 really needs to hold. If we do capitulate below $2.30, it'd be a straight move down to $1.17. At that period in time, I think we'd be coming down to the $1 psychological level. I think that is the minimum price target we're going to break down to before Kadena reaches a bottom. But more specifically, you know, 93 cent, 80 cent, that's where I'm really going to be picking up a lot of interest in KDA. I hope we come down to those levels because, like I said, been watching it since 650. I would like to pick up some at some point in time, but I'm not willing to, you know, put my hand out and try and catch a falling knife. So best of luck to you. As always, not financial advice. Cowboy out. Peace.